Welcome, everybody, to the Success Elevated podcast. As always, I'm your host, Hayden Lee, and I am joined by two very special guests this week, Melissa Hartley and I forgot your last, Sierra Brady.
It's fine. It's fine.
I knew Sierra in high school, so I keep wanting to call her Mortensen. Sierra Brady joining us this week for Spot On Solutions Talks, and special episode this week because it is the 1 year anniversary of the start of the Success Elevated podcast. So very, very cool. Excited to have both of you here. I originally thought we were going to talk about Google Analytics today and
that
like
was
GA4
not the plan.
and integrations with websites, but I was ambushed today in the office and was surprised by the entire office. So why did you ambush me today, Sierra?
Because we just, as a company here at Spot On Solutions, this podcast has become our little baby, and you have put so much effort and time into this podcast that we wanted to express some of our appreciation to you as we celebrate this 1 year anniversary. I mean, we couldn't do it. There's so many moving pieces here that we are so thankful for to be a part of. But you as our host, we wanted, you were kind of trying to figure out what you wanted to do for the 1 year anniversary. And we were like, no, we want to surprise Hayden and make, just let you know how much we appreciate
you guys
put
are
into
awesome.
this podcast.
It was hard not to get emotional today just because of all the work that's gone into this. But it was seriously an ambushing because I had no idea this was happening, to the point that like we had talked over the last couple of weeks prepping for a completely different podcast topic, to the point that I was going to talk to Melissa's husband, who is really good with GA4, about like I was gonna go sit down and talk with Paul about, hey, GA4, could you tell me a little bit about GA? I was gonna go schedule some time.
He had no idea this was happening either. We didn't even give him a heads up. So if you had done that, we would have been busted.
That's true. We probably would have been a little bit, but the last year has been so cool. Like it's been just, again, selfishly, for nothing else, just the cool people that I've been able to meet. Like it's been awesome. And we couldn't have done it without like so many people in the background helping. Sierra, Melissa, all the social posts we've done, Sierra just like getting it edited and uploaded on all the platforms. Our editor Dennis has put in a ton of work on this. Like it's been a project that has taken a lot of time out of our day, but I think it's been super, super cool. So I don't know. I appreciate the kind words, but it's been a group project more than anything else. So I don't know. It's been cool.
As a company, we're really just so proud of the production that we've been able to put into this. It's been a vision that Katie and Derek had. And our main goal is really to just provide valuable information and content with all of these people. So I'm going to kick you out here for a minute. We're going to ask you some questions today.
Yeah, this is going to be weird. I'm on the receiving end of this.
So
it's going to be hard for me.
So I hope you're ready, because I feel like that was a good segue. So,
cool.
You talked about over the past year, all these people that you've been able to talk to. It's been so cool to listen to. Yeah. But you have brushed shoulders with so many people in this podcast and some incredible entrepreneurs. What are some of the most impactful things that you feel like have stood out, that you remember and have just been extremely valuable?
It's a great question. I was thinking about that, even just going into, again, thinking that we were just going to have a quick little chat about this or whatever. But I've thought about this a lot. There's been a handful of things I think have been really impactful. One, we had a really awesome interview, and it's cool because now they're a part of our team. But Len Hume and Annette Marchanda came onto the podcast, and we had a really and now they both help out with like sales and helping us grow other people's businesses, but they were clients of ours for a long time. And Len said something really impactful in his episode where he talked about building relationships with people. And he said, how I have built relationships is I go into every opportunity meeting someone. I go into that conversation thinking, how can I help that person? I don't think, how is this person going to make me more money, or how are they going to help me? Like I go into, that's how he's built relationships over, several decades of growing a successful business, has been going in and meeting new people. He thinks, okay, how can I help this person? And that was so impactful for me because that's how I want to live my life. Like I want to go into every time I meet somebody new and be like, how can I help this person? So that was a big episode for me. I just really, really enjoyed that. And I think the other episodes that really stand out to me, Eric Sprague had a lot of really, really awesome feedback. He has been podcasting for several years now. And so him just coming on and just showing me the ropes with podcasting has been cool. But then also, he just has so much cool background in our industry, but just like life advice in general, like how to just be a good person and treat others how you would want to be treated. And Eric probably wouldn't like that I'm giving him all of these flowers right now. He's a pretty private guy, but like Eric is just a really, really cool guy. And I consider him a mentor. Like every time he's coming in, comes into the office. He lives in Utah. So he comes in, I would say once every other month or something, working on a new project with Melissa or whatever. And every time he comes in the office, how are things going? How's the podcast going? And he's just so cool. So
a very genuine person.
So
very genuine.
Yeah. Like, and you know, he shared a story about how him and Larry became business partners, which is kind of a funny story. And you can go back and listen to that episode, but he talked about how, him and Larry would walk to work out every day. This is when I think they were both still in college. Even when there was like a blizzard outside, like they would walk like several miles to the gym and walk back. And he was getting ready to start a business with Larry. I think it was when they were getting ready to start their cleaning or restoration business. And Eric was talking to his dad about it. And Eric's dad goes, listen, any guy that will walk several miles through a blizzard with you to start a business or to go to the gym is a guy that you want to start a business with. Like that's a good dude. So like that was a really cool story. And I don't know, Eric just has such cool insights into just life. Like I could just sit down and talk to him about anything. Him and his wife. I met his wife last month.
His wife is so sweet. Yeah.
She's amazing. Like they're just really, really cool people. So.
I'm a little biased because he's one of my clients, but he's definitely one of my favorite guests that we've had.
Yeah, he's so awesome. And I feel like now I need to just have his wife on a podcast and just talk to, because she's from like England and like
she's amazing. And she's got like all of these behind the scenes stories of like
I'm sure struggling, starting a business and like stuff from like a spouse's perspective. Yeah. Anyways, it just those two, I would say, you know, Eric's given a lot of really good insights in his episodes. And then, that conversation with Len and Annette was the two most impactful things. I've had so many other awesome episodes. It would be hard to distill it down to just a couple, but I think those two have been my favorites so far. Yeah.
That's awesome. I love being able to listen to the podcast before it even like goes live.
Yeah. You get a behind the scenes.
Yeah. So I get a little bit behind the scene episode, but those have been some of my favorites too. So I think it's cool that some of my favorites are some of your favorites. You always say that you have a front row seat.
Yes.
To these success stories.
Yes.
And I love that. I love that mentality that you're like, I am so lucky and blessed to see all of this stuff happening. And we hear all the time that successful people do the same things. Or it's always, to be successful, you got to do X, Y, and Z. What are some of the common things that you have found when you interview people that make people successful?
Yeah, I think when it comes to business, maybe I'll speak to that first. And I've said this probably every episode, so people are probably sick of hearing me say this, but a common theme, anybody that starts a business, they start seeing really significant growth. Granted, it's got to be a good idea and a solid business model. Like there's definitely some key foundational pieces, but almost every case or every person that I've talked to and every business that I've looked into, that business really starts to grow when the person that started it starts delegating. And that's like a common theme through almost everyone that I've interviewed. They start seeing really, really big growth in their business when they start like bringing in people to help them, whether it's a marketing agency to handle their marketing, or it's, hiring somebody in the office to maybe just answer phone calls. Maybe it's something as basic as just like, I just need somebody to answer the phone so that I can go out and either be doing jobs or managing my team or whatever, right? Like it's almost consistent across the board. They start seeing really, really big growth when they start bringing in team members to help them, right? Start delegating. So I think that would be the big thing for like business.
I love that take though, because I feel like it works for leadership too, not just for business owners, but for people in leadership or who want to be in leadership.
Yep.
To be able to delegate is a really big skill.
Huge. And I think it's often forgotten, especially in the small business world, because like small business owners are like, well, I know how it needs to be done, and I'm the only one that knows how.
You think you got to wear all the hats?
Yeah,
you think you got to do everything?
If I want something done right, I got to do it myself, right? And that's like a common thing thrown around. And I think there is some truth to that, in that like you have to put the right people in the right spots. But once you get the right person there,
Yeah.
like just let them go. Like delegate and let them take care of it because it's going to make your life easier.
I remember Shane.
Okay.
In
Shane,
Shane's
HR
podcast,
Shane.
HR Shane.
Our Toby.
Was talking to you in his podcast that he had mentioned you've got to find, I'm trying to remember exactly how he said it because he said it so well. You can't do everything all the time.
Yeah.
And he talked about knowing what you're good at and doing those things well. Is I might not be able to go out and do all 500 people's jobs at my company.
Yeah.
But I've got to find people who are a good fit, who are good at what they do so that I can delegate that. And finding where people fit and making that puzzle piece, that's when things really click.
Well, and again, just we're talking podcasts today. Just a personal example of the podcast itself. Like when we started the podcast, like I did everything. I found guests, recorded, edited, and posted, like everything. And it got to a point where I was like, I am missing things. I'm missing links. I'm like not doing this correctly. I'm not getting stuff out as fast as I need to. And so like, having good conversation. I have really awesome leaders here like Katie. And so having conversations with Katie, she was like, okay, let's have somebody else handle the posting. Let's have somebody else handle the editing. So literally all you got to do, sit down, record an episode with a guest, have good conversations, have good questions, and then you can delegate to other people. And like, that's a small example. It's not like we're running a business, but like, it's a small example of like, delegating just elevates the product and makes it that much better. So yeah, I think for business sake, I think like elevating businesses, like delegating and getting good team members has been like one of the biggest things I've learned for sure. So yeah.
That's awesome.
What has your hope been for the podcast just as a whole?
Like hope from here on out, you think? Or like, what do you think?
I think the whole thing. What was the vision of the podcast when we sat down and decided?
Yeah.
I mean, not that I was involved
Like,
in
did
that,
you-
but like when it was okay, we're going to start a podcast.
Yeah.
What was the hope that it would provide some kind of benefit?
I think originally we talk about this a lot in quarterly planning. And I think now, Sarah, that you've been involved in quarterly planning, like we are always looking for ways to elevate our voice here at Spot On Solutions, like, and increase our authority. So I think that was kind of like priority one. Like it makes us feel like an expert. Like we knew we were experts in the industry, but like now we have a way to like kind of push that expertise out, right? Like we've got like, hey, we talk to other experts in the industry. We talk to our clients. We talk to, cool people that have cool stories and we're experts on marketing, but now we can kind of bring in some other people to help talk about these things. So I think that was kind of the original vision, is like, okay, how do we make SOS, how do we increase SOS's authority, right, in the world? And then for me, I think there's so many cool stories out there that I don't think get told, especially in the small business world. It's one thing to hear a story about Apple or Google, right? But it's a completely other thing to hear about somebody down the street that started a multi-million-dollar business, right? Like I think about Kenyon Martin with Restore Right here locally in Blackfoot, Idaho. Like he 5 years ago just kind of started cleaning carpets and then was like, let's start a restoration company, right? And it's now grown into a multi-million-dollar business here in Blackfoot that employs dozens of people, like, and he can give good lives to his employees and like take care of himself and his family. Like that's a great example of like, yeah, he's not going to be a billionaire, but like he's built a really awesome, cool business that I think their story needs to be told, And I think for me, again, like building the authority, great, and that's cool for SOS, but I think there are people out there that need their stories told because I just think they're cool, So I don't know. That's kind of my thought behind it. What do you think? I don't know. When we first were talking podcasts, Melissa,
were you in on that decision? Did I miss that?
I was there.
I'm like, were you there?
I was there.
Like,
yeah.
I want to hear this story.
We were at this point where we were trying to find like new ways to market, and podcast was one of those things that we'd never tried before.
Yep.
And Hayden came in and he was all just like fresh faced and still kind of new to the company. And we're like, you're fresh. You get to be in charge of this. Because nobody else really had the capacity to really do it.
Yeah.
And you just really took it and made it something amazing. You did all the legwork.
Yeah.
Made it happen.
You were just kind of let go. You were just kind of let loose, man.
We trusted you with it, and you.
Totally. And when it got to a point, I recorded the first episode, which I think, was with Kenyon. And I was like, I don't know if this is good. I kind of sat on it for a few days. I think it was like even a week. And finally Katie was like, just post it. Let's just start this thing. I was like, okay. And hit the button and it was like, all right, I guess we're
And it was off to the races.
now. Yeah. And it was kind of off to the races.
And
after
you've
that.
done one every week consistently since then, which is a huge feat. I don't think people realize how big of a deal
much
it
time
is to
that
put a
takes.
podcast out every single week.
Yeah, and on all of us, like yeah, I mean, this will be episode 53, but this is exactly a year ago we posted our first episode. And it's crazy to think. One a week for a year is insane. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
That's really cool. So you mentioned there just kind of briefly that here at Spot On Solutions, it's our goal to elevate people in businesses, right? We throw that around all the time.
Yep.
Katie and Derek were really thoughtful about the voice that they wanted to create. And so not only was starting a podcast going to build some rapport and build up our authority, it was an opportunity to elevate. And I'm curious as to why you decided you wanted to be the voice of the podcast. I mean, and it sounds like you were kind of thrown at it anyways, but you still would have had to have this want.
To be fair, like I wanted to do it. Like it was something that I thought would be really, really cool. I think being fresh faced, like Melissa said, I think also was a reason that I think I could have been a good voice, is because like I didn't know what I didn't know, right? Like I was so new to like marketing and stuff that I was like, I'm coming from a perspective where I know I don't know everything, so I can ask questions. I can ask the questions that I think our audience would want to ask, because they also don't know everything, right? So like I'm asking questions, again, selfishly more so than anything else, that like I want to know, but I think our audience wants to know as well, because I'm still new to a lot of this stuff, right? So I think that's why I think I was able to help kind of develop a good voice and ask good questions, is more so than anything else. Like I didn't know what I didn't know, right? So like that's, I think, pros and cons of being a fresh face. I don't have a degree in marketing, right? So I think talking about marketing with clients and learning about how they grew their business and understanding how they built a successful company, I think I could ask questions that were coming from like a genuine place, because like I was genuinely curious, like, how did you do this? Like, I have no idea how to start a business. Like, how did you do this? Right. So I think that was how I developed that voice. And I hope that continues, because I still don't know very much, but I feel like I can ask good questions because of that. So, yeah.
I think that's awesome. And I love that kind of the common thing, or I guess one of the common things that I think kind of keeps coming back, is you just have to jump in and do it. Yeah. I mean, as an entrepreneur, how else does anybody get started, right? You have to take that step. Yeah. And Katie says all the time, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, and the second best time is to do it today. And I think that's very apparent with the podcast. I mean, Katie just post it. Just post it already. Right. Just do it. Because you never know if you don't. Right. You never know if you don't try. Well, and everybody's got to start somewhere.
Yeah, and there's a million podcasts out there, right? So like, I think we could have gotten caught up in the fact of like, well, we should have started a podcast at the beginning of the pandemic, or we should have started a podcast 10 years ago when Joe Rogan did, or whatever, right? Like we should, like we're too far behind. We can't possibly post it. And we got to a point, like Katie was saying, was like, let's just start it, see what happens, right? And I don't think by any means we've built anything that huge or large, but I think we've built something that's really cool, and we have a good audience that cares about what we're talking about. So, yeah.
We were listening to some more clips, and one of the things that Katie said, I don't even remember which episode it was. We've had Katie on a couple of times, but she had said something along the lines of, if you've thought about something, but you haven't done it, or you keep thinking about it and you come back to it, you're making excuses, telling yourself the story of why you haven't done it yet, it's usually out of a place of fear.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that a lot of people can relate to, right? There's this fear to start anything, but if you don't start,
right,
it's not going to happen. You're not going to overcome that fear. Yeah. You're not going to wind up a year later into this podcast celebrating the fact that we've been doing this for a year.
Yep. Which
is a big win.
Yeah.
And that's awesome. And that's the only way to see growth, is to be willing to overcome that fear and to jump both feet into the deep end and start learning how to swim.
Yeah, and see what happens. I love it.
Talk personal development. How have you grown with this podcast?
Oh man, that's a great question. Well, I mean, I come from a place like I'm not a professional by any means, but my education, my professional career is not marketing or business, right? Like I guess my minor is technically in business, but like, I think for me, I've learned what Eric Sprague and other people call soft skills. Like, I think over the last year, I've developed, the ability to like talk to people about anything. And I feel like I had some of that naturally, but I think I've emphasized that over the last year. Like I can ask questions and learn about people very quickly and get to know them very quick. And I feel like I can build relationships very quickly. So that's been cool for me. I think the podcast, more so than anything else, has like taught me to like dream big. That's something
I love that.
Yeah. Like,
I love that.
Like values, one of our values here at Spot On Solutions is like, we believe that we can do big things. Right. And I definitely believe that. And I think I've always somewhat believed that, but the podcast, like sitting down and talking to these people that like one day we're just like, I'm going to risk it all and start a business. Like, I'm just going to, like you said, I'm going to both feet into the deep end. I'm just going to do this. Right. And so I think personal development more than anything else has like taught me like, I can do big things, and I can, if I believe in myself and work hard, like I could start a business. I could help grow, my team. I could elevate Spot On Solutions, right? If I just believe that I can do big things. And I think personally that's helped me a lot it's given me more confidence as a person, which has been cool. And then, hopefully our audience, can kind of feel the same way. But yeah, I think that would.
I'm like grinning like a fool sitting here because I feel so excited and happy for you because I love that. You just have this light about you as you're talking about that. And it's really cool to see the difference between that. And I mean, earlier this week, I had mentioned a quote from Rocky where he's talking to his son and he talks about how
it's a great quote.
If you don't believe in yourself, you'll never have a life or you'll never live a life. And so it's so cool to just see you be like, I believed in myself. Yep. And once I started to believe in myself and believe that I can do big things, I started to have this confidence. And that's the next thing, when that little voice in the back of your head and that fear starts to get quieter because you believe in your capability of doing those hard things and overcoming and climbing mountains. And I don't know why that just makes me so excited, but that was like really cheesy, but I'm like really happy and proud of you for that because I think that's something that I lost for a long time. Yeah. And so being able to see that fire in other people and know that the podcast is providing that value and that benefit to who knows who.
Yeah, totally.
It's freaking awesome.
Yeah, it's way cool. No, I think like, dreaming big and like having big goals is like so important. And I think, the podcast has helped me develop a confidence so that like, I believe, and again, it's just been, I've had the opportunity to just live vicariously through the people that I've interviewed, right? So like they've just started businesses sometimes out of nothing. And so it's like, man, like I can accomplish goals that I've set. Like I can grow my team here at Spot On Solutions. Like I can help people be better. And like, it's been really, really cool. Again, if for nothing else than myself has helped me like grow this confidence and set big goals and believe that I can do big things. And
look at all that personal development.
Oh yeah.
Right there.
Yeah, it's been awesome.
And those soft skills are awesome.
Yeah. And again, like today, looking back, by no means do I think I'm the most technically aware or strong when it comes to like maybe marketing per se, but I've developed skills over the last year that I think have helped me like elevate myself and my team because like I know how to talk to people and ask questions and build a strategy based on what people's goals are, like, and all of that, or a good portion of that has come from the podcast and like sitting down and having conversations with people.
That's so awesome. Yeah, and I love that elevating you has allowed you to elevate the people. I mean, a rising tide lifts others.
Yeah.
And that's a perfect example of it. Like, because I was able to elevate myself, I've been able to then turn and elevate my team, which has then in turn elevated our clients.
Yeah.
Which is, that in of itself is really awesome.
Yeah. Super cool. Love it.
Well, are you ready for your 3 rapid fire questions to finish up the podcast?
I don't know. Yeah, sure. Let's do it.
It's your turn.
Favorite book or podcast? Ready, set, go. Oh, and you can't pick your own podcast.
The success elevated. No, favorite book. So I read a lot of like biographies, like autobiographies.
Okay.
I need to read more like business books and stuff, especially with all the awesome recommendations I've gotten over the last year.
Right.
Most recently, I've read a book called Undaunted Courage, which is about the Lewis and Clark expedition, which is incredible because like where I live now in Idaho was like, there was nobody here. Like, and so it was just, it's a really, really cool story of how this small group of men and women led this 2-year-long expedition to the unknown. And the title is incredible because it's Undaunted Courage. Like they just had massive amounts of courage to just be like, hey, we're going to take all this gear and we're going to go live where nobody has lived for the last 2 years and discover all these cool things and meet new people, all of the native tribes that they met. And it's one of my favorite books. I've just finished up the last month or so. So now I'm looking for a new biography. I need to start a new one, and I'm looking to either start Teddy Roosevelt's biography or Ulysses S. Grant. And so I got to decide between those two. But I read a lot of biographies, and that's been my favorite one as of late.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And how do you recharge at night?
I ask this one a lot, and I get a lot of really good answers. For me, so Justin Sifford from Wylander, I believe it was him. I hope I'm not misquoting him. But he, I believe, said something to the effect of having white space in your life. Yeah. So he, at the end of long days, just like finds white space. And it might be going for a walk with his wife or turning on a Netflix show and just shutting the brain off. I've found that is crucial for me. So for me, in the winters, it ends up being like, watching Netflix, maybe playing some video games, hanging out with my wife, playing with my dog, whatever it is. In the summers, spring, summer, fall. So, in Idaho, that's like 7 months is all. But
it feels like 2 months.
It feels like 2 months. Camping and fishing is what I try and spend most of my time doing. So weekends, evenings, I'm blessed to live where I live, so fairly close to some pretty good fishing. And so, in the evenings after work, I'll try and go do a little bit of fishing, or especially the weekends, go do that. So that's how I try to relax, recharge. In the winter, it's a little tougher. I'm ready for spring, but that's how it goes. So, yeah.
I like that. Trying to remember the last one.
This one's my favorite one to listen to everybody talk about. If you could go back in time and give yourself one piece of advice or tell yourself one thing, what would it be?
Okay. I think the one thing, I look back and like my degree is not in marketing, but so I look back on my life with a lot of regrets at times, but I think a lot of those stumbles throughout my life have led me to where I am, and I'm happy with where I'm at. So, but I think if I could go back and change one thing, I think I would try to develop the confidence in who I am now a little earlier. I think I would just try to be a little bit more confident in myself. I think I had a lot of self-doubt, especially in like college and in high school a little bit, but I had a lot of self-doubt in who I am, and I think that led to a lot of low self-esteem. And I think if teenage and early 20s Hayden could look forward to where I am now, not that I'm by any means like some incredible person, but like I think if I could look forward and be like, oh, like he made it out okay, like he did all right. Like I think I would have a lot more confidence in who I am. So if I could go back, I would tell younger Hayden like, hey, everything's gonna work out. Be confident in who you are. Don't stress so much about big decisions. Like I think about my senior year of high school, just how much stress I had about like life and college and where am I going to go to school and all this stuff. And I think if I would just have told myself like, everything's going to be fine. It's all going to work out. Be confident in who you are. I think, maybe, I would have been a little bit faster to the person than I feel like I am today. So
a lot easier said than done though.
Definitely easier said than done. But I think that's what I would tell myself. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for letting us kind of flip around your podcast for you today.
This has been fun. I love doing this, and it's been fun talking with both of you. And I'm just excited for the future of the podcast. I think there's a lot of really cool things we have coming down the line, and I'm excited for all the cool people that we've lined up to talk to. And just really, really excited about the future.
And I love that you've got people reaching out to you wanting to be on the podcast.
It's much different than it was a year ago. A year ago,
we were begging
people, especially, I think our first few guests were like local guests that came into the office, and I was just like, please, Kenyon, please come in. Jake, please come in. Like I was asking just my friends, like, please come into the office, do a podcast, right? And now, we get emails saying like, hey, we've seen you featured in CNR magazine. Do you want to? Could I come on for an interview? Like stuff like that is so cool.
Love that.
I love that it's grown to that place, and I hope it continues growing even further. So.
Well, thanks for letting us be a small cog in the wheel for the podcast.
Of course.
And I'm excited to see the next guest that we have lined up. So
love it.
Thanks, Hayden.
Well, I'm sure we'll have you guys on in the future to talk about, maybe we'll talk about Google
Maybe
Analytics.
we'll talk about GA4.
For reals next time, maybe.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Hayden. Thanks.
This has been Success Elevated. making you a little bit better one show at a time. Thanks for joining us. Please subscribe on YouTube or any other major podcast platform to listen to more episodes. We are proudly brought to you by Spot On Solutions. If you'd like to learn more about how we can help you grow your business, please check us out at spotonsolutions.com.